Welcome to my channel Sella Buzz. Only Some Truth TV suggests virtually win the hearts of humans worldwide. One show that has executed this. Considering 2009 is Pawn Stars on the History Channel, IT flawlessly combines leisure history and negotiation. Rick Harrison, co-founder of the show and shop, has spent most of his existence in the store and labored hard to develop and enlarge the pawn save business, regardless of his clear dedication to boom. Rick has faced many personal hardships and prison battles that maximum people are privy to. Let's see what befell to Rick Harrison and get an update on his cutting-edge situation. Richard Kelvin Harrison, famously regarded to fans as Rick Harrison, turned into born on March 22, 1965, via Richard Benjamin Harrison and Joanne Rue Harrison. His parents had 4 children, particularly Sir Joseph Rick and Chris, with Rick being the third infant. Rick experienced tragedy early in existence, whilst the misplaced considered one of his siblings, Sir Joanne Harrison Sherry, the first infant of Benjamin Harrison and Joanne Harrison, become born with Down syndrome and finally surpassed on the age of 6. Rick's father became a U.S. Navy veteran in 1967, while Harrison became 2. His circle of relatives moved to San Diego, California because of his father's transfer. Rick confronted ongoing issues whilst he started having epileptic seizures at 8 years antique, which left him, and not using a other preference, however, to spend lots of time in bed analyzing books. This sparked his lifelong love for books and reading. He especially favored a chain by way of John D. Fitzgerald called The Great Brain, which featured a 10-year-old Utah con artist named Tom D. Fitzgerald, who stimulated Harrison really appreciated physics and records. He especially enjoyed mastering approximately the Royal Navy from the late 1700s to the early 1800s. Harrison went to Taft Middle School in San Diego, however dropped out during 10th grade to sell faux Gucci baggage for $20 per week. Rick and the Owen family moved to Las Vegas, Nevada in April 1981 due to the fact their mother and father real estate enterprise had failed at 17. Rick confronted any other undertaking when his girlfriend Kim became pregnant. Although pretty younger, Rick bravely determined to embody fatherhood. Sadly, the couple experienced the terrible loss of their first toddler to a miscarriage. Notwithstanding this, they stayed sturdy and ultimately got married. In 1982, they gave birth to their first child, Corey, on April 27, 1983, who later became vital to his father's enterprise. Years later, they fortuitously greeted their 2D baby Adam. No longer long after, Adam became born. Harrison and Kim separated in 1985. But Rick did not live a unmarried dad for long. Simply 9 months after his divorce, he began courting Tracy. They dated for about 8 months earlier than getting married. In 1986, collectively, they took it the duty of worrying for Corey and Adam. We've pointed out Rick's foray into physics and records, which benefited his profession, because while his father opened a 300ft second-hand gold and silver coin keep in Las Vegas Boulevard South in 1981, Rick's know-how in history truly contributed to the shop's achievement, as it changed into to be had to present ancient backing to every piece. But at nighttime, Rick was repossessed motors. 5 years later, the family relocated to a bigger spot on Fremont Street. However, they had to circulate once more after 2 years because they misplaced their hire. In his autobiography, Rick defined that he and his dad had desired to exchange the store right into a pawn store for a while, seeing it as a logical next step, but they couldn't because of a law from 1955 in Las Vegas, which most effective issued a constrained number of pawn licenses primarily based at the city's populace, in order that they came to use for a pawn license as quickly, because the city's population hit 250,000, and by means of 1989 they subsequently got their pawn license after dealing with a few prison challenges. That same YR, the father and son opened the gold and silver pawn shop at 713 Las Vegas Boulevard South, not a ways from the Las Vegas Strip. At the beginning, the father and son focused on promoting unique sports items and particular historic pieces of their keep. However, rings have become their pinnacle promoting object. Through the years, their enterprise grew and became widely recognized in Las Vegas. Through 2005, they had been lending out millions each year, incomes loads of thousands in hobby earnings. The subsequent year, The shop became regarded for having rare sports items with interesting backgrounds like a 2001 Super Bowl ring that belonged to soccer participant Brock Williams. In addition, they helped out gamblers who would pawn things to get money. For gasoline to return home, their increase and recognition caught the eye of the History Channel, which caused the start of Pawn Stars. The display premiered in July 2009. Brent Montgomery and Colby Profits from Left Subject Pics came up with the concept for Pawn Stars during a visit to Las Vegas in 2008. They loved the style of exciting and shady pawn shops, believing that those stores should be domestic to particular characters they regarded, for a family-owned save to base a TV series on. Subsequently, they discovered the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop, which became less than 2 miles from the Las Vegas Strip. This keep had already been the point of interest of a PBS documentary in 2001. And Rick, the supervisor and component proprietor, had wanted a show about his shop for years. Rick had previously regarded in an episode of Insomniac with Dave Attell in 2003. The show was first pitched to HBO, who failed to like the authentic idea, but they allowed it to be modified into the family-friendly fashion. We have at the start named Pawning Records. It became later changed to Pawn Stars to better suit what they have been capturing. The name is a playful pun on porn stars. The display is filmed on the well-known Gold and Silver Pawn Keep in Las Vegas, Nevada, even as jewelry is the most commonplace object pawned. Their clients on Pawn Stars bring in a range of vintage items. The store holds over 10 0 gadgets in its stocktail. For the duration of filming, the shop is closed to the general public, with only some permitted clients allowed in. The Harrison circle of relatives have become very popular. Because of the display, many people watched it, left wonderful reviews, and desired greater, which helped the show develop and go back each 12 months. In January 2011, Pawn Stars become the pinnacle-rated show at the History Channel, and the second one, highest-rated fact show, after Jersey Shore. On June 7, 2011, Rick Harrison released his biography licensed to pawn deals. Steals in My Life on the Gold and Silver, which reached wide variety. 22 at the New York Times bestseller list, via June 26, 2011. In this same year, Rick divorced his second wife, Tracy. The subsequent Rick Harrison, who had been divorced twice, introduced his engagement to Deanna Barrett, who was additionally divorced. Rick changed into glad with the show's fulfillment and his growing popularity among fanatics. Corey and Chumley seemed as themselves. In an episode of iCarly titled, I Misplaced My Head in Vegas. 4 days later, Rick played an vintage store owner in an episode of any other series titled The Middle. Round this time, he married Deanna Bedite in Laguna Beach, California. Through this marriage, Rick won 3 stepdaughters, Serena, Kiana, and Marissa. In January 2014, Rick Harrison have become the spokesperson for the Micro Touch One razor, a guy's shaving product, and appeared in a TV commercial for it. Some months later, the History Channel premiered United Stuff of America, a display from the producers of Pawn Stars that shine the mild on first-rate artifacts from vital historic moments. In July 2014, the sport display Pornography premiered at the History Channel, proposing Rick, Corey, and Chumley competing in opposition to contestants to save them from winning cash and objects from the Gold and Silver Pawn Shop stock. But unfortunately, a series of unfortunate tragedies befell to Rick and his circle of relatives. Rick lost his father in June 2018. Richard Harrison called the vintage guy at the TV display Pawn Stars handed away. Rick announced his father's loss of life to over 245 Instagram fans on Monday, declaring that Parkinson's disorder was the motive. A consultant for the Harrison showed the patriarch's passing and furnished the equal assertion. Rick shared on Instagram a assertion from the History Channel expressing their sadness over the passing of the TV superstar. We're very unhappy. Approximately the loss of our buddy Richard the Old Man Harrison, who was a cherished member of the records and pawn superstar's own family. The assertion says we're going to pass over his knowledge and honesty. Our hearts are with the Harrison-owned family at some point of this hard time dropping. His father added Rick mammoth disappointment and also made him totally rechargeable for searching after the family and strolling the shop. Then, the COVID-19 pandemic hit in 2019, critically affecting the business and growing many demanding situations for Rick, with many people suffering for the duration of COVID-19. One would possibly have assumed that pawn stores have been thriving, in spite of everything. In case you have been in a tough spot and wished quick cash, a pawn store was the pass-to area. Lamentably, that wasn't the case for lots of these companies, at the same time as there has been initially a raise in commercial enterprise. On the begin of the pandemic, it failed to closing long in an interview with Fox News. Pawn Star's star Rick mentioned that COVID-19 had distorted the pawn store enterprise. He defined how the enterprise as an entire had struggled to locate its footing. Now that most people were simplest undertaking, important sports traveling a pawn keep wasn't on the top of their lists. To worsen matters, Rick needed to partly close his keep doorways in March 2020, as the number of instances skyrocketed. The traveler section of the commercial enterprise changed into closed for 30 days, despite the fact that the economic issue remained operational, consistent with the Las Vegas Review-Journal. The shop CFO stated, "We saved shopping for assets and going for walks, the lone commercial enterprise, through our night window." 247 Due to the fact, manifestly, there have been folks that had been hurting, Rick becomes still prepared to fight for his business, and he emphasized that he and the relaxation of the sector well-known gold and silver pawn shop team have been geared up to paintings harder. In an interview with a neighborhood Las Vegas news station again in April 2020, he introduced, "We decreased the interest price on gadgets. We gave humans greater time to pick out their stuff up. We understood. I've been in this town for a long time. It has given loads to me." And usually try to supply again at some point of that interview. Rick additionally mentioned that he notioned the financial system could get better in approximately 6 months. Unfortunately, we now recognize that wasn't the case. In step with the Daily Mail in 2020, the gold and silver pawn shop, which generally makes over $1 million every year, handiest earned 47,46 because of the COVID pandemic. In addition, Rick needed to cope with the introduced burden of a divorce from his 0.33 spouse, whom he married in September 2020. In line with court papers obtained by means of TMZ, Rick Harrison and Deanna Bddit appeared to have drifted aside so much that they couldn't stay married. Rick stated inside the fit that their taste, critiques, and possibilities have grown to be so unique that they can't get alongside in marriage. TMZ additionally noted that the divorce might have been disregarded because it befell all through the countrywide George Floyd protests. Rick advised TMZ, "I were given 3 outstanding daughters out of it," regarding Diana's 3 youngsters from her previous marriage, and added that the marriage didn't training session and the divorce turned into a mutual selection. Additionally stated he has moved on from the father-daughter pics he has recently posted on Instagram. It is clean. He nevertheless considers his stepchildren to be his very own father-daughter. Day without work. Rick wrote in an August 7th Instagram post, he has expressed comparable sentiments about multiple of his stepdaughters. So at least it truly is tremendous. No matter the demanding situations, Rick dealt with the whole thing with aid from his son Corey and his satisfactory pal Austin Chumley Russell. 12 months later, Rick married his 4th wife Amanda Palmer, hoping for a higher lifestyles together with her. However, Rick's problems continued in February 2022, whilst he encountered felony troubles together with his personal mom Joanne Rue, according to USA Today. Rick's mom Joanne Harrison has filed a lawsuit towards him over family assets and possession of the gold and silver pawn shop. The civil lawsuit become filed in Nevada State Court. Rick Harrison, the gold and silver pawn keep Harrison Properties, Jorick Houses, and others are named as defendants inside the lawsuit. Walking a own family commercial enterprise can be complicated and difficult because economic subjects can purpose exact relationships to interrupt. Lest this changed into what occurred to the son and mother. Rick and Joanne's bond changed into definitely stricken by disputes over money. The grievance from his mom accused Rick of breaking an agreement, stating that his mother changed into married to his father for nearly 6 a long time, yet when she become within the medical institution inside the early 2000s, just after she woke up from a coma, Rick had her signal over her 51's ownership of the pawn save to him at a point while she didn't completely apprehend what she changed into signing this of path. Didn't positioned Rick in a great mild as enthusiasts who were following the tale had constantly believed him to be a own family-oriented character who would not screw his family due to money. The truth on the floor was that once Richard passed away in 2018, his wife inherited his 49% percentage of the pawn keep, but it regarded her son in no way gave her the entire financial statistics of the commercial Enterprise because she claimed she hadn't received right statistics for greater than 500,000 in cash and silver that she believed Richard had earlier than he died, she stated. Rick had stopped sending her cash from her past, due husband Richard's percentage of the commercial enterprise Rick used to send her normal $25,000 payments, however, but he stopped in 2020. Joanne was additionally seeking to get that allowance reinstated through the courts. Many lovers felt Rick's wealth become in risk because, in line with reviews, Joanne filed a brief restraining order against her son to save him from promoting any of the circle of relatives' assets. The restraining order might also prevent Rick from transferring or hiding cash assets or taking another actions that would reduce her stake in the circle of relatives' commercial enterprise. The lawsuit also asked for unspecified damages, a complete account of assets, and a court docket order to stop Rick from using his mom's money, and he had to release any control over her belongings. Through optimistic belief, however, Rick later stated in an interview, "Concerning the case, the accusations are untrue, and I consider that my 81 12-month-old mother is being motivated by way of others for their very own advantage," Joanne's request said, whilst Rick enjoys his snug life as a superstar in control of all the circle of relatives, business corporations, and finances. "I am left scared and uncertain if I may have sufficient money to cover my clinical and private prices every month." In keeping with an article, Joanne changed into over 80 years old and has many health troubles that require round-the-clock care that may fee up to $155,000 in keeping with month. Rick stated he only discovered approximately the restraining order request from news reviews. He said, "I've tried to touch her oftentimes over the last few months, but have not been capable of reach her in truth. One of the organizations she is suing is absolutely owned by using my mother, the Pawn Star. Star seemed pressured via his mother's lawsuit. No matter facing several challenges, Rick's greatest and most devastating blow was but to our available in January 2024. Rick tragically misplaced. Hisson, a public information officer in Clark County, Nevada, confirmed that the 39-year vintage died from fentanyl and methamphetamine overdose. The Clark County Office of the Health Worker ruled the death as accidental situation arose while every other resident referred to his absence, seeing that January 17th the landlord found him unresponsive. Maine to a call to law enforcement on January 19th. Harrison shared the news of his son's passing by means of posting a photograph of himself and Adam at a eating place on his Instagram account. "You will usually be in my heart, I love you." Adam Harrison captioned, adding a damaged coronary heart emoji. Laura Hervich, a spokesperson for the Own family, stated in a declaration on January 22nd that Adam reportedly passed away from a fentanyl overdose. "We're deeply saddened by way of Adam's passing. Please appreciate our privacy as we mourn his loss." Rick also commented on the matter in a declaration, mentioning the fentanyl disaster on thesis of a wishes to be addressed extra seriously in response to Rick's heartfelt Instagram tribute to his son, Adam. Many supplied their condolences. Donald Trump Jr. genuinely commented, "I'm so sorry, man." Corey Harrison, Adam's older brother, also posted a childhood photograph of them on his Instagram webpage. Inside the submit wrote, "I'll constantly love you, Bubba." Although Adam Harrison wasn't seen on Pawn Stars, he reportedly labored at gold and silver pawn at One Factor, then later became a plumber. Corey had to begin with defined that Adam didn't seem inquisitive about being at the display even with these types of problems and sadness in his life. Rick Live is positive and maintains his pain hidden behind his bright smile. Rick advocated Donald Trump for president and Daniel Rodimer for Nevada's 3rd Congressional District in 2020. He even considered running for governor of Nevada in 2022. Rick also said he may run for U.S. Senate in 2024. "A number of people inside the party have talked to me about it, and I always don't forget it. I haven't made up my thoughts, but I'm maintaining my options open." Rick obtained his Kentucky Colonel stat U.S. in the course of an episode of the Pawn Stars spin-off, in part filmed at Locust Grove. He became inducted into the Kentucky Colonels in June 2023 of their Grand Parlor. The Kentucky Colonel is the highest honor given via the governor of Kentucky. Rick no longer works complete time in the Pawn Store as an alternative. He's now starring in Season 2 of Pawn Stars Do America. In spite of some felony issues, Rick seems to be enjoying his semi-retirement and endured Truth TV fame at the same time as spending time with his grandchildren and circle of relatives.